He guarded a lone orc girl all night. Then he witnessed something impossible. The forest at the border wasn't supposed to be quiet. That was the first thing Tristan noticed. The kind of silence that happens when nature holds its breath, waiting for violence to pass. He'd been a soldier for 6 years, long enough to know that quiet forests meant blood had already been spilled nearby. He found her 20 minutes into his patrol, an orc, alone, sleeping in a tree like some kind of exhausted cat that had climbed too high and given up on the way down. Every single part of his training screamed at him to sound the alarm. Protocol was clear. Orcs in neutral territory meant scouts, and scouts meant war parties weren't far behind. Captain Godric had spent 3 hours last week explaining in excessive detail what happened to soldiers who hesitated when encountering enemy combatants. But Tristan had hesitated, because the orc in the tree wasn't scouting. She was barely conscious. Her armor, if you could call it that, was more scars than metal. Dark leather straps held together pieces that looked like they'd been salvaged from 3 different sets, none of them originally hers. One pauldron was missing entirely. Her left arm hung at an angle that made Tristan's shoulder ache in sympathy. And she was small. Well, small for an orc, about his height, which meant she'd have trouble in hand-to-hand combat with most orc warriors. The kind of size difference that made you wonder how she'd survived this long. Tristan stood at the base of the tree for exactly 47 seconds, counting his own heartbeats, trying to decide if he was about to make the worst decision of his military career or just a really, really stupid one. Then she whimpered in her sleep. It was the kind of sound that didn't belong to monsters. The kind of sound his sister Juna made when she had nightmares about their father's funeral. Small, broken, human, except she wasn't human. She was orc. Green skin, tusks, the works, the enemy, the savage, the monster who was currently curled up in a tree like a child afraid of the dark. This is incredibly stupid, Tristan muttered to himself, but he didn't sound the alarm. He didn't draw his sword. He sat down at the base of the tree, positioned his back against the rough bark, and began what would become the longest night of his life. The first hour passed in that particular kind of alertness that comes from knowing you're doing something phenomenally against regulations. Every snap of a twig sent his hand to his sword hilt. Every rustle of leaves made him calculate exactly how fast he could climb the tree if something came for her. Came for her, not came for them. He was already thinking of her safety as separate from his own, which was its own kind of problem. Tristan had been raised in a military family. His father had been a captain. His oldest brother was a lieutenant. Even Juna, who collected rocks and believed in fairy tales, could recite the Articles of War from memory. And Article 7 was very, very clear about aiding enemy combatants. But Article 7 had never met an exhausted orc who cried in her sleep. It started softly, so soft that Tristan almost convinced himself he was imagining it. A hitching breath. A shudder that ran through her entire body. Then a sound that was unmistakably a sob, muffled and desperate. She didn't wake up. The tears just came, silent and steady, running down green cheeks and dripping onto the branch beneath her. Tristan looked away. It felt wrong to watch, like seeing someone undressed without permission. Private grief wasn't meant to be witnessed, especially not by an enemy soldier sitting guard below. But he couldn't unhear it. And he couldn't ignore the way she whispered names in her sleep, orcish names that rolled like thunder and broke like glass, names that sounded like prayers, or accusations, or goodbyes that came too late. One name repeated more than others, Vograth. She said it the way Juna said their mother's name in her sleep, with longing, with loss, with the particular pain of being the one left behind. Tristan shifted his position, trying to get comfortable against the tree, and something fell from above. A small object, catching moonlight as it tumbled, landing in the dirt beside his boot. He picked it up carefully. A stone, black, polished smooth from years of handling, with veins of gold running through it like frozen lightning. It was warm, not from the fall but from body heat. This stone had been carried against skin for a very long time. The leather cord that had held it was still attached, snapped clean through, worn thin from years of wear. Tristan turned the stone over in his palm. It was beautiful in a severe kind of way, the kind of object that mattered, that meant something. He should have pocketed it, kept it as evidence, proof of enemy presence in neutral territory. Instead, he wrapped it carefully in a clean cloth from his pack and set it aside, treating it with the reverence it seemed to demand. The second hour was when the memories started to hit him. Tristan tried to keep his mind on the present, on watching the perimeter, on listening for threats, on being the soldier Captain Godric had trained him to be. But his mind kept wandering back to 3 years ago, to the Battle of Crow's End, to the moment everything he'd been taught about orcs had begun to crack. They'd called it a glorious victory. Hing's forces had pushed back an orc war party, defended the village, saved countless lives. Tristan had been 21, fresh from training, eager to prove himself. He remembered the celebration afterward, the way Captain Godric had raised a toast, the way veteran soldiers clapped them on the back and called them heroes. He also remembered the orc bodies they'd left on the field, the way one of them, no older than Tristan himself, had died calling for his mother, in perfect common tongue, not Orcish. "Mama," he'd said. "Mama, it hurts." Tristan had thrown up behind a supply wagon after that. Nobody noticed. Everyone was too busy celebrating. Captain Godric had found him later, offered him a flask of something strong. "First battle's always rough," Godric had said, not unkindly. "Gets easier." It hadn't gotten easier. Tristan had just gotten better at not thinking about it. Now, sitting beneath a tree guarding an enemy soldier who cried in her sleep, all those thoughts came rushing back. The orc at Crow's End who'd called for his mother, the ones who'd fled, not fought when they realized they were outnumbered. The body of an orc woman they'd found with a child's toy, clutched in her hand, a carved wooden horse, the kind human children played with, the kind that suggested she'd had a child somewhere, had been someone's mother. Monsters didn't have mothers. Monsters didn't carry their children's toys into battle, but people did. "What am I doing?" Tristan whispered to the darkness. The forest didn't answer. It rarely did. The third hour was when he started talking to her, quietly, barely above a whisper, knowing she couldn't hear him, but needing to fill the silence anyway. "My sister collects stones," he said, looking up at the branch where she slept. "Juna, she's 19, believes every rock has a story, drives our mother insane because she brings home buckets of them. Says they absorb memories, that if you hold one long enough, you can feel the history of everyone who's touched it." He pulled the black stone from where he'd wrapped it, held it up to catch the moonlight. "I wonder what stories this one would tell. I wonder who gave it to you, if they're one of the names you keep saying in your sleep." The orc, Rokya, though he didn't know her name yet, shifted slightly. Her hand moved, unconsciously reaching for her throat where the stone should have been. When her fingers found nothing, she made a small sound of distress. Tristan stood, moved closer to the tree, not climbing it. That would be too much, too invasive, but close enough that he could see her face properly in the moonlight. She was young, younger than he'd initially thought, maybe his age, maybe younger, hard to tell with orcs, but her face had that particular unfinished quality that youth carried, like she hadn't quite grown into her tusks yet, hadn't quite settled into who she was supposed to become. Her armor was telling its own story, the mismatched pieces, the emergency repairs done with whatever materials were available, the way certain spots were worn, smooth from constant adjustment, suggesting they didn't fit quite right. This was salvage armor, the armor of someone who couldn't afford proper equipment, of someone who'd had to make do with what dead warriors left behind. But there was one piece that clearly was hers, a small iron pin fastened to her chest piece, shaped like a stone, surrounded by flames. A clan symbol, Tristan realized. He'd seen similar markers before, always after battles, always on dead orcs. The Bloodstone clan, unless he missed his guess, which meant she was a long way from home. The Bloodstone territories were 3 days' march north, deep in the mountains. "What are you doing out here alone?" Tristan asked softly. "Where's your war party? Your clan?" She didn't answer. Of course she didn't answer, but Tristan found himself imagining responses anyway. found himself creating a story around this lone orc warrior sleeping in a tree at the border of neutral territory, crying in her sleep, carrying a stone that mattered enough to break her heart when she realized it was gone. Maybe she was an outcast. Maybe she'd been exiled for some crime, real or imagined. Maybe she'd fled. Maybe she was running from something worse than human soldiers. Or maybe, and this thought settled in Tristan's chest like a stone, maybe she'd lost everyone. Maybe those names she whispered in her sleep weren't goodbyes. They were the last survivors of her world, and she was trying to hold on to them the only way she could. The fourth hour brought danger. Tristan heard them before he saw them. Footsteps, multiple sets, human boots on forest floor. Patrol. His patrol, the squad that had split up to cover more ground. Damn! Tristan breathed. He looked up at the sleeping orc, still unconscious, still vulnerable, still very, very illegal to be protecting. The voices grew closer. He recognized them. Sergeant Brennan, who told terrible jokes. Private Aldwin, who was only 17 and still got homesick. Corporal Dane, who never met a regulation he didn't love. If they found the orc, they'd kill her, or worse, capture her. Bring her back for interrogation, which was a polite word for torture. Tristan had seen what interrogations looked like, had heard the sounds that came from the holding cells. He had maybe 90 seconds to decide who he was. In the end, it wasn't really a decision at all. Tristan stepped away from the tree, moving to intercept the patrol before they got close enough to see what he was guarding. His hand went to his sword, not to draw it, but to rest there. The universal signal of a soldier on alert. "Tristan?" Brennan's voice carried through the darkness. "That you?" "Present," Tristan called back, keeping his voice steady. "Sector clear." The patrol emerged from the tree line. 3 soldiers, tired from hours of walking, eager to finish their shift and get back to camp for something hot to eat. Brennan squinted at him. "You been here the whole time? Thought you were covering the eastern ridge." "Thought I heard something," Tristan lied smoothly. "Turned out to be a deer. Big one. Nearly gave me a heart attack." It was a good lie. Believable. The kind of thing that happened on night patrol. Aldwin laughed. "Remember when that raccoon got into the supply tent? Sergeant Morris thought we were under attack, nearly stabbed a bag of flour." "That raccoon had it coming," Brennan said. He looked at Tristan more closely. "You good? Look tense." "Long night," Tristan said, which wasn't a lie. "Looking forward to dawn." Dane, the corporal who loved regulations, was studying the area with the intensity of someone who'd read too many tactical manuals. His gaze swept over the tree line, over the underbrush, over the tree where an orc was sleeping 20 feet above them. Tristan's heart stopped, literally stopped for a moment, then restarted with enough force to make him dizzy. But Dane's eyes passed over the tree without pause. The branches were thick, the shadows deep, and nobody expected to find an enemy combatant sleeping in a tree like an exhausted cat. "Come on," Brennan said, already moving past. "Let's finish the circuit. I'm freezing my arse off, and Morris promised hot stew if we're back before dawn." They moved on. Tristan stood very, very still until their footsteps faded into nothing, until the forest returned to its patient silence, until his heart rate dropped below panic attack levels. Then he sat back down at the base of the tree and tried not to think about what he'd just done. Lying to fellow soldiers, hiding an enemy combatant, violating Article 7 and probably 16 other military regulations, for an orc he didn't know, who would probably kill him if she woke up and decided he was a threat. "I'm so incredibly stupid," Tristan whispered. But he didn't move, didn't leave, didn't do any of the sensible things a smart soldier would do. He stayed. The 5th hour, the hour just before dawn, was when everything changed. The sky was beginning that particular kind of pre-light that meant night was almost over, not bright enough to see colors properly, but bright enough that the world stopped being pure shadow and started becoming real again. Tristan heard her move before he saw it. A shift of weight, a sharp intake of breath, the sound of someone waking up in a strange place, disoriented and immediately alert. He should have moved away, should have drawn his sword, should have done literally anything except what he actually did, which was sit very still and wait. Rokia appeared at the edge of the branch, moving from horizontal to vertical, with the fluid grace of someone who'd spent a lifetime fighting. Despite her injuries, despite having just woken up, she moved like water, like violence waiting for direction. Then she saw him. They froze, both of them. Two creatures from opposite sides of an endless war, staring at each other in the pre-dawn light, trying to figure out if this was the moment they killed each other. Tristan raised his hands slowly, not quite surrender, not quite greeting, somewhere in between. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said in common tongue. Rokia's hand went to her throat, to the empty space where her stone should have been. Her eyes, yellow gold in the growing light, went wide, panicked, like he'd stolen something more valuable than her life. "This?" Tristan reached slowly for the wrapped stone beside him, held it up. "You dropped it, it's safe." Understanding hit him then, like cold water. She didn't understand. Or she did understand but didn't believe. Why would she? He was human, she was orc. The last thing she should expect was kindness. Rokia began to move, not attacking, retreating, backing along the branch, calculating jump distance, preparing to run. "Wait," Tristan said. "Please wait." He unwrapped the stone, held it up so she could see it clearly. The black surface, the gold veins, the leather cord still attached. "Karak," Rokia said. Her voice was rough, from sleep, from tears, from whatever she'd survived before finding this tree. "That's Karak's stone, Father's stone." She spoke common tongue, perfectly, with barely an accent. "Your father's?" Tristan asked. "Father's stone, father's honor, father's—" She struggled for the word. "Father's everything." She dropped from the branch, landed badly on her injured leg, nearly fell. Tristan moved without thinking, stepping forward to steady her. They both froze again, this time for different reasons. Tristan's hand was on her arm, green skin under his palm, warm, solid, real, not monstrous, not savage, just a person who was staring at him like he'd grown a second head. "You," Rokia pulled back but slowly, "you guard me, all night, you guard enemy." "Yes," Tristan said simply, because what else was there to say? "Why?" "I don't know," which was true. "You were crying." Rokia's expression did something complicated. Shame, anger, grief, all mixing together. "Crying is weak. Crying is human," Tristan said. Then, realizing his mistake, "Sorry. I meant, I understand." She looked down at her hand, touching her arm where he'd steadied her. "You think orc not feel, not cry, not hurt like human." "I used to think that," Tristan admitted. "I don't anymore." The silence that followed was different from all the silences before it. This one had weight, had possibility. "Your name?" Rokia asked. "Tristan." "Tristan." She tested it. Made it sound like something from a different language. "I am Rokia, daughter of Zorgath, last of Bloodstone clan." "Last." The word hung in the air like smoke. "Last?" Tristan asked gently. "War party. 3 days ago. We—" She stopped. Started again. "We lose everything. Brother Vograth says run, says survive, says honor means nothing if everyone dead to remember honor." "Brother." So that's whose name she'd been crying. "Is he," Tristan started, "alive maybe if God's kind, if luck holds?" Rokia looked at the sky, at the lightning horizon. "I must go. Dawn comes. Your soldiers comes. This—" She gestured between them. "This not possible, cannot be possible." "I know," Tristan said, but neither of them moved. "The stone," Rokia said. "Please." Tristan held it out. She took it, and their fingers touched for just a moment, long enough for Tristan to feel that the stone was still warm, long enough for their eyes to meet. "Thank you," Rokia said. "For God, for Karak, for—" She paused. "For seeing Rokia, not just orc." "Thank you," Tristan replied, "for not killing me when you had the chance." She smiled. It wasn't much of a smile. Her tusks made the expression awkward, uncertain, but it was real. "You guard enemy all night," Rokia said. "You very stupid human." "Extremely stupid," Tristan agreed. "Possibly the stupidest." "I like stupid humans better than smart humans," Rokia said. "Smart humans kill. Stupid humans—" She touched her chest, right above where her heart would be. "Stupid humans feel." Then she turned to go. limped toward the tree line, favoring her injured leg. Tristan should have let her go, should have watched her disappear into the forest, should have gone back to camp and pretended this night had never happened. Instead, he said, 3 miles north, there's a cave, hidden. My sister Juna and I used to play there as kids. It's safe, hidden. If you need somewhere to... He trailed off. Rokia had stopped walking, didn't turn around, just stood there, back straight despite her injuries, holding her father's stone against her chest. Why you tell me this? She asked. Because, Tristan said, stupid humans do stupid things. She did turn then, looked at him with those gold eyes that had seen too much death, too much loss. If I go to cave, if I wait, you come. It wasn't really a question. It was a possibility, a door opening, a choice that would change everything. Yes, Tristan said, I'll come. Why? Because I spent all night watching you cry, and I think... He stopped, started again. I think maybe the war isn't as simple as they told us. I think maybe orcs and humans aren't as different as we're supposed to believe, and I think I want to know more about you, about your people, about why everything I've been taught feels like a lie. Rokia was quiet for a long moment. Then, you break rules. You break honor. You break everything soldier should be. Yes, Tristan agreed. Good, Rokia said. World need more broken soldiers, less perfect ones. She left then, disappearing into the trees like smoke, like she'd never been there at all. Tristan stood alone in the growing light, holding nothing but the memory of a conversation that shouldn't have been possible, of a night that would change everything. In the distance he could hear his patrol returning, could hear Captain Godric calling for morning assembly, could hear the familiar sounds of military life demanding his attention, but all he could think about was a cave 3 miles north, and an orc with gold eyes who taught him that enemies could be people, that monsters could cry, that everything he'd believed about the war was built on a foundation of convenient lies. 3 days later, Tristan stood at the mouth of the cave. His pack was heavier than usual, food, medical supplies, a book that Juna had lent him, a collection of folk tales from the Northern Territories, stories about heroes who chose differently, who questioned, who saw. Rokia was there, waiting. Her leg was healing, he noticed. The makeshift bandage suggested she'd been taking care of it properly. You came, she said. I said I would. Human soldiers say many things, mean few. I'm not most soldiers, Tristan said. No, Rokia agreed. You very stupid soldier. Very broken. They sat at the mouth of the cave as afternoon faded into evening. Tristan unpacked the food. Rokia showed him how to properly clean a wound using orc medicine. Herbs he'd never seen before, techniques that actually worked better than anything the military healers had taught him. They talked about families, about loss, about the war that neither of them had started, but both of them had been expected to die for. Vograth sent letter, Rokia said at one point. Fine messenger bird, he live. Rebuilding, say I should come home. Are you going to? Tristan asked. Should. Vograth need help. Clan need warriors. She touched the Karak stone at her throat. Father would say duty first, always duty. But Rokia think maybe duty not same as right thing. Maybe father wrong. Maybe honor not worth dying for if honor built on hate. They were quiet after that, watching the sun set through the trees. Two people who shouldn't be friends, shouldn't trust each other, shouldn't exist in the same space without violence. What we do, Rokia asked eventually, cannot hide forever, cannot pretend war not real. I don't know, Tristan admitted, but I think we do what we can. I think we show that different is possible. Maybe we're not heroes. Maybe we're just two stupid people sitting in a cave, but that's more than we had before. Rokia smiled, that awkward, tusked smile that was becoming familiar. Two very stupid people, she corrected, most stupid in all kingdoms. Definitely the stupidest, Tristan agreed. Over the next weeks they met when they could, secret meetings at the cave. Stolen hours, where they could be something other than soldier and warrior, where they could be Tristan and Rokia, where they could imagine a world that didn't demand they kill each other. Tristan brought books. Rokia taught him Orcish. He showed her human customs. She explained Orc honor codes, the real ones, not the propaganda versions both sides spread. They shared stories, shared pain, shared hope. And slowly, impossibly, something grew between them. Not quite friendship, not quite romance, something that didn't have a name yet, something that both sides of the war would call treason, but also something that felt more real than any battlefield, any flag, any king's decree. Captain Godric noticed the change. "You've been different lately," he said one evening, cleaning his blade with that nervous habit of his. "More thoughtful, less certain." "Just tired, sir," Tristan said. Godric didn't sound convinced. "You know, I fought for 20 years before I started questioning. You're questioning after 6. That means you're either smarter than me or more naive." "Probably more naive, sir." "Probably." Godric set down his blade. "But maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe the world needs more naive soldiers, ones who haven't learned to stop asking why yet." He left before Tristan could respond. 3 months after that first night, Vograth found them. Tristan was teaching Rokia to read Common Tongue when the massive orc appeared at the cave entrance, bigger than any orc Tristan had ever seen, built like a wall with arms, the kind of warrior that made soldiers reconsider their life choices. Vograth looked at his sister, looked at the human sitting beside her, looked at the book between them. "Rokia," he said, speaking in Orcish. "What you do?" "Learning," Rokia replied in Common Tongue. "Teaching, being friend. With human, with enemy, with Tristan, with person." She stood, moved to stand between her brother and the human she'd been spending months with. "He saved me, Vograth, when he should kill, when any soldier would kill. He'd choose different." Tristan stood too, slowly, trying not to look threatening, trying not to look terrified, mostly failing at both. Vograth was silent for a long moment. Then, "Vograth speaks your tongue, learned from prisoners, from traders, from humans who thought Vograth too stupid to understand." "I don't think you're stupid," Tristan said quietly. "No, you think Vograth is orc, is enemy, is thing that should kill you." "I used to think that," Tristan admitted. "I don't anymore." Another long silence. Then Vograth did something unexpected. He laughed. Not a hostile laugh, a real one, deep, surprised. "Vograth spent 3 months rebuilding clan," he said, "fighting every day to hold pieces together, fighting to make other clans respect Bloodstone again." He looked at Rokia. Vograth was angry when he found Letter, when he learned sister spend time with human instead of coming home. Vograth ready to kill human, protect sister, do what warrior should do. "Then why didn't you?" Rokia asked. "Because Vograth saw book, saw lessons, saw—" He gestured between them. "Saw what Vograth thought impossible, saw orc and human choose different, and Vograth think, maybe Rokia not wrong, maybe Rokia more brave than Vograth, maybe changing is harder than fighting." He sat down heavily, making the ground shake. "Tell Vograth about this human who guards sleeping orc all night. Tell Vograth why this makes sense." So they did. They told him about that first night, about the patrols, about the conversations, about slowly learning that the enemy had names, had families, had reasons. When they finished, Vograth was quiet for a long time. Finally, "Father would hate this. Father would say dishonor, would say betrayal." "I know," Rokia said softly, "but Father also dead. Father's way got everyone killed, got clan destroyed, got Vograth watching own people burn because they too proud to question, too honor-bound to change." He touched his chest where his own clan marking showed. "Maybe dishonor better than extinction. Maybe betrayal of old ways is loyalty to new future." "What are you saying?" Tristan asked. Vograth saying, "Maybe one human not enemy. Maybe one orc not monster. Maybe—" He looked at his sister. "Maybe Rokia and Vograth build clan different. Build clan that choose peace when possible, that choose understanding over war, that choose—" "Survival over pride," Rokia offered. "Yes, survival over pride, life over death, future over past." He looked at Tristan. "But world not ready for this, both sides. Your king, our chiefs. They kill what they not understand. They destroy what they fear." "I know," Tristan said, "but we have to start somewhere. Someone has to be first." Vograth smiled then. an expression that was all tusks and sharp teeth, but somehow still warm. Someone has to be first. Someone has to be stupid enough to try. Vograth think maybe he is stupid as sister now. Maybe stupid is contagious. Like human disease. Gee, thanks, Tristan said. You're welcome. Vograth stood. Vograth must go. Clan waiting, but... He placed a massive hand on Rokya's shoulder. Sister have choice. Come home to duty. Or stay here with stupid human. Vograth not force. Not anymore. This is Rokya choice. Not father's. Not Vograth's. Not clan's. What would you choose? Rokya asked. Vograth would choose clan. But Vograth not Rokya. Vograth is chief, has responsibilities, has duties. He squeezed her shoulder gently. But Rogath also is brother. Brother says follow heart, even if heart is stupid. He left then, disappearing into the forest, leaving them alone with a choice that would define everything. Rokya turned to Tristan. You never ask me stay. I know. Why? Because, Tristan said, I can't ask you to choose me over your family, over your people. That's not fair. That's not... Tristan. She took his hand. Green fingers wrapped around pale ones. In 3 months, you teach me much. Teach me reading. Teach me your stories. Teach me humans can be kind. She lifted his hand to her chest, placed it over her heart. You teach me feelings, not weakness. You teach me different possible. You teach me stupid can be brave. I didn't teach you anything, Tristan said. You already knew. You just needed someone to see it. Then you see. You guard sleeping orc. You protect when should kill. You choose impossible thing, she smiled. Now Rokya choose impossible thing. Rokya choose stay, choose learn more. Choose build future where orc and human not enemy, where stupid is normal, where broken soldiers and broken warriors make better world. It might not work, Tristan warned. We might fail. We might be killed. We might... She kissed him. It was awkward. Tusks got in the way, their heights didn't quite match. It was the most imperfect first kiss in the history of first kisses. It was perfect. When they pulled apart, Rokya was crying again. But this time, they weren't grief tears. They were something else, something that didn't have a word yet in either language. What we do now? She asked. I don't know, Tristan admitted. Keep meeting. Keep learning, keep being stupid together, maybe eventually tell people, maybe eventually other people join us, maybe change world. Rokya finished. One stupid choice at time. One stupid choice at a time, Tristan agreed. They sat together at the mouth of the cave watching the sunset. 2 people who shouldn't exist in the same space. 2 people who'd chosen impossible. 2 people who were slowly, carefully building something new from the ruins of everything they'd been taught to believe. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. The war didn't stop because 2 people chose differently. Kings didn't suddenly declare peace. Clans didn't embrace humans. Most of the world continued exactly as it had before. But in one small cave, 3 miles from the border, something impossible was happening. And that was enough. That had to be enough, because real change doesn't happen in grand gestures or single battles. It happens slowly, like water wearing down stone. Like 2 people choosing to see each other instead of enemies, like a soldier who'd spent 1 night guarding an orc and learned that monsters could cry, that enemies could be friends, that everything he'd believed was a choice, not a truth. The Karak stone hung around Rokya's neck, catching the last light of day. Black and gold, past and future. What was lost and what might still be built. Tristan thought about his sister Juna and her belief that stones absorbed memories. He wondered what memories this stone carried now, what stories it would tell if it could speak, what impossible things it had witnessed. In my language, Rokya said softly, we have saying, Karak Morshada, means, memory gives strength. Father give me stone, so his memory make me strong, make me perfect warrior like he was. And now? Tristan asked. She touched the stone, smiled. Now, Karak Morshada means different thing. Now means memory of father gives strength to choose different, to choose better, to choose what he could not choose. She looked at Tristan. To choose future over past. Life over death, love over hate. The sun disappeared below the horizon, the stars began to appear, and two impossible people sat together in a cave that shouldn't exist, building a future that wasn't supposed to be possible, one stupid, brave, beautiful choice at a time. Some victories aren't won on battlefields, some revolutions don't start with armies. Some of the bravest warriors are the ones who choose to stay, not the ones who choose to fight. And sometimes the most impossible thing in the world is simply this: two people from opposite sides of an endless war, choosing to see each other as human, even when one of them technically isn't. If this story touched something in you, if you believe that sometimes the bravest choice is to see the person behind the enemy, to choose understanding over hate, then you're exactly the kind of person this channel was made for. Hit that subscribe button for Orc-Bound Tales. Because every week we bring you stories about impossible choices, unlikely bonds, and characters who dare to be different in worlds that demand conformity. And here's my question for you. Have you ever made a choice that everyone said was stupid, but your heart knew was right? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one, and I want to hear your story. Because just like Tristan and Rokia, sometimes being stupid is the bravest thing you can do. Subscribe, comment, and remember, the world doesn't change with perfect heroes. It changes with broken people willing to choose differently. See you in the next tale.